Hi, it's Kyle from Bitewing Games, and today we're learning how to play I Made You a Mixtape by Mike DeLisio and Dan Hughes. It's the 90s and you're trying to make a great mixtape. And if you're from the 90s, you know that any old mixtape isn't good enough. It needs to be great. So what makes a mixtape great? Well, it needs to have a good theme. So you'll score points for having matching genres. You'll score points if the songs flow into each other, indicated by this tape here. And you'll score points if the A and B sides are evenly timed, indicated by the numbers here. Let's jump right into the setup, and this is a prototype so your version may look just a little bit different than mine. Each player takes 3 balance cards and sets them up like so. Place a cube on the 30 space. From the deck of track cards, gather the cards for your player count. So for a 3-player game, we'll get all the 2+ and 3+ cards. Shuffle those cards and deal 1 card to each player. If the card is a wild, draw a new card and shuffle the wild card back into the deck. Next, you'll discard a number of cards depending on your player count. For a 2-player game, discard 4 cards. In a 3-player game, you won't discard any cards. And in a 4-player game, discard 2 cards. These cards won't be used, so you can just return them to the box. Players are now going to play their starting card in front of them. So let's look at how we play cards out. Cards will be placed into a left or a right column. If this number here is on the left of the card, it goes in the left A column. If the number is on the right, it goes to the right B column. Cards have to be placed in a straight column. You can't shift the cards to the right or left so the ribbons match. And you'll always stack a new card on top of the previous card, slightly overlapping the card like so. Can you rearrange cards or place one at the top of the stack? No! Have you ever made a mixtape? Once the song's on there, it's totally stuck. So for your first card, you just place the card. Every time you place a card, you'll move the balance marker the indicated number of spaces. So this will move the balance marker 2 spaces to the right. And this will move the balance marker 3 spaces to the left. And now the game will really start. Each player is dealt 3 cards. Players will look at their cards, and each player will simultaneously create 2 piles. A pile of 2 cards and a 1-card pile. Pass those cards to the player to your left. It gets confusing if you do it separately, so all at the same time, pass 2 piles to the left. Each player will now look at the 2 piles and choose one to keep and one to pass back to the player on their right. So you should now have 1 or 2 cards that were passed back to you and 1 or 2 cards that you chose to keep. Players will now simultaneously play their cards. You can play the cards in any order, but remember the card tells you if it goes to the left or the right. Let's look at an example of a turn. The game is all set up, everyone has placed their initial cards. Amanda placed her bop here, moving her marker 2 spaces to the right. Everyone is dealt 3 cards. She makes 2 piles and passes the cards to her left. She looks at the cards Nick passed. She's already a little bit to the right, and she wants to stay balanced in the middle, so she decides to keep the 1A card rather than keeping the 2 B track cards. She passes the 2 cards back to Nick, and Cammy on her left passes 1 card back to Amanda. Amanda will play the 2 cards. They are both A-track cards. She could place them in this order, or in this order. This way makes a lot more sense, because the ribbons will line up this way. And now she moves her cube 5 spaces to the left. The game will continue this way until the deck is empty. And on to final scoring. You'll score points for your balance cube, for your flow, how many cards have matching ribbons, and for genre sets. So first, score the listed points for where your balance cube is currently sitting. So Amanda scores 24 points. You'll score points for the flow on each card. If the ribbon isn't touching above or below, you don't score for that card. If it matches the card above or below, you'll score 1 point. And if it matches both above and below, you'll score 3. So Amanda scores 1 point, 3 points, 3 points. This is a wild, so it matches anything. 1 point, 0 points, 1 point, 1 point, for a total of 10 points. And she'll count her flow for the B side the exact same way. Finally, score for the genres. Each card shows what genre it's part of. The final rulebook will have a prettier graph than this, but you'll score points for how many cards you have in each genre. Amanda has 1 punk, worth 0 points. She has 2 pop, worth 3 points. 3 alternative songs, worth 6 points, and 5 rock songs, worth 15 points, for a total of 24 points. Wilds don't count as any genre, so ignore any wilds when counting genre points. Total up your score and the player with the most points wins. There is a solo mode. I'm not going to go over that here, but the designer, Mike DeLisio, did make up how to play the solo rules, and I'll link that in the description below. But if you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. Until next time.